always carried the sentiment that you should wear fragrances for yourself and what you like and not for the validation of others. And while I do still believe that, today I wanted to talk specifically about fragrances that I think are really gonna capture someone's attention and draw them to you and leave an impression. These are all perfumes that I think are very flirty, seductive, and
sexy,
if you will. And also fragrances that I think would be perfect for a first date, to really make yourself unforgettable and to leave a lasting impression. I think that scent is such an overlooked thing when it comes to how people present themselves. And while it's not like immediately obvious, like I feel like the first thing that someone would pay attention to is obviously like, you know, your eyes, your outfit, just like your face. Your scent is something that is so deeply important, even if it's not immediately noticeable. I know for a fact that personally, obviously like being like a huge perfume enthusiast, this matters a lot for me. And like, I mean, I don't think I need to explain why, but like when someone smells bad or even just like average, like it is one of my all-time biggest icks. Like something that I definitely find attractive in a person, and also honestly just like a bare minimum, is for them to smell like nice and clean and kind of put together. First and foremost, the most important thing is to just like have proper hygiene. But after you have that just like basic foundation of being clean and smelling acceptable, I think these perfumes are really going to just elevate how you smell, and they're so flirty and seductive and will really, I think that these will help you bag a second date. Before we get started with the list, if you are new to my channel, make sure to subscribe, and as always, if you're coming back, thank you so much for being here, and let's just get started. So I wanted to include kind of like a wide range of fragrances for different audiences and also different situations. I feel like what you would wear to an amusement park is very different to a fragrance that you would wear like staying in and watching a movie at night, if that makes sense. So hopefully I have a good range. I know that my perfume taste personally is always very sweet, quite feminine, and just like gourmand heavy. So a lot of these fragrances are going to lean that way. And you'll also see like a lot of overlap between the fragrances on this list and the ones that I listed on my most complimented video, just because those are all fragrances that they have like this it factor that'll really captures people's attention and like make them think like, oh my god, someone smells so good, like who is it? But I guess starting off, I wanted to mention L'Interdit. I absolutely love this line of fragrances. I think that they're so well done. I have the Eau de Toilette as well as the Intense, and honestly I feel like you really can't go wrong with any of the first four. I haven't smelled the new Le Parfum just yet, but the EDP and the Rouge as well are also really incredible, and I think would be perfect. They're all a little bit different, and so I think that they give you, I'm not saying you have to like go out and like buy all four of them, but I think just like depending on your occasion, I think this line will have something for you. So I guess to start off, the general DNA of L'Interdit is that it's this very bright, alluring, almost like ethereal floral. Like I remember when I smelled L'Interdit for the first time, it just really stood out to me. Like I felt like every perfume I was smelling was something that smelled very just like department store, very commercial and basic. And while these do have elements of that, like it's something very perfumey and crowd pleasing, there's something about this DNA that is just so bright, and the way that the tuberose is done is so elegant and magnificent. I think out of like any designer white floral fragrance, this line just like really stands out to me. The most spring, summer, hot weather, daytime appropriate is definitely going to be the EDT. This one's very bright floral. It definitely has this same like ethereal, just beautifully sweet floral quality that the original has, the EDP, but it's very fresh as well. On the other hand, if you're looking for something a lot more deep, sultry, and I think this one is potentially a little bit risky, I would go for the Intense. So this one, it opens up with a ton of black pepper. It has a sesame note that gives it like a nuttiness, and then it just has this like deep and rich vanilla patchouli dry down. This one is very appropriately named the Intense version. This is not a fragrance that I would recommend for like a night in a closed space, but rather this is the kind of fragrance that is really kind of like mysterious and a little bit edgy. It's something that I would wear to like going to like a museum at night, or potentially like dinner at a fancy restaurant. Definitely more of a nighttime fragrance in my opinion, and something where you want like a little bit of like ventilation, just because in a very closed space I found that this can be very heady and kind of overwhelming because of how strong it is. But regardless, the point I'm trying to drive across is that all of the L'Interdits are really great in my opinion, and I would totally recommend and myself personally wear them for a first date. And I guess since we're talking about Givenchy fragrances, I wanted to quickly mention Irresistible. beautiful. This is their other very just like popular feminine fragrance. This one I actually don't have a full bottle, as you can see. I just have this little sample, but I do really like the fragrance. This one to me is less remarkable to me than L'Entrée. I in general like the L'Entrée fragrances better than this one. However, I think this one is so sweet, juicy, and floral. It's just like the most kind of photorealistic, juicy raspberry and sweet rose that you can get with a fragrance. It's so incredibly feminine. If you just want something that is really versatile, kind of timeless, and extremely elegant, if that's the kind of vibe that you want to go for when presenting yourself, I think that this is really perfect. This to me is like a mature and sophisticated fragrance, but with a ton of sweetness. It's incredibly sweet, not from like a vanilla or any sort of sugary candy note, rather it's just from like the juiciness of the raspberry as well as the florals. So I think that this is definitely one that I would recommend to wear on a first date. The next fragrance that I think would be perfect for a first date is Cloud Intense. And so I did think about all three clouds, and I think out of the three of them, this one is the one that I would recommend most for like that first impression. This one to me is the most, I don't want to say like ordinary, but it definitely has the most kind of crowd-pleasing scent profile. Obviously, this is another very similar fragrance to Baccarat Rouge. That DNA in general, it just smells so good, and any dupe of that fragrance is something that I would recommend because like Baccarat Rouge is so beloved, and I feel like universally it is just kind of like a perfect fragrance, which is why it is iconic as it is. This one, to me, it smells almost like identical to Cloud, except it's a little bit more woody and a little bit more floral. The original Cloud has more of this kind of sweet and dense cotton candy kind of feel, and the original can come off to some as smelling plasticky or almost like burnt plastic, which is not how I would think of it at all, but I can kind of understand where people are coming from. But this one, I think, definitely tones that down and is just more crowd pleasing. So I think that this one would be a really good option while still maintaining that kind of beautiful, opulent, gourmand quality of the original. Next up, I would definitely recommend Prada Paradoxe, and this is the Intense. I would say out of the Paradoxe line, this one is by far my favorite. I only have this little adorable mini of it, but I definitely do like this fragrance a lot. I think with the original, I think it's a little bit too basic and Victoria's Secret to me. This one is still, I think, kind of like in that line. It's definitely just like a white floral that is kind of familiar in the sense that you've smelled a similar DNA if you have been into perfume for a couple of years at least. However, I think this one is done really well and stands out a little bit more than the original, which I think smells good. Like, it's a very pretty, elegant, girly white floral, but it just runs a little bit basic and unremarkable. I think this one is deeper, darker, more dense, and is a little bit more pronounced on that vanilla, and I absolutely love vanilla as a note. I think that it's so warm and seductive, and while I think the main focus of this fragrance is gonna be the jasmine, this is definitely a fragrance that is super attention capturing. I think if you wear it on the right occasion, it'll really draw someone in and have them thinking about you long after the date. Next up is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. It's Kayali's Vanilla Candy Rock Sugar. This perfume is incredibly sweet. So this is definitely something that I think you would have to kind of evaluate your audience and make a judgment as to whether or not this is something that would be appealing to them. I think for the most part, this scent DNA is so likable just because even though it's so incredibly sweet, it's just so beautifully executed that I feel like no one would really hate this fragrance. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that this is one of, if not the most complimented perfumes that I own. There's something about this that is incredibly addicting and attention capturing to honestly anyone around you, but especially like on a first date, I feel like this would be so perfect. It's definitely something that's more flirty and whimsical, and so if you're going to something like really formal, like a date night at a fancy restaurant, I don't know if this is what I would reach for, but for anything else that's a little bit more lighthearted, something where you can really just embrace the amazing sweetness of the fragrance, I think that this is such a good perfume. And on that note, I also wanted to mention Kayali's Young Bougie Marshmallow. This is another one that I think is so fun and flirty. This one definitely is more tame in terms of both projection and longevity. It's very milky and, as the name would suggest, a very fluffy marshmallow. The performance isn't great, so I think with this one you would definitely have to overspray. If you apply it properly and can get it to project, it's definitely definitely something that is going to be really delicious, almost kind of mouth-watering, but not in like an extremely childish or body spray kind of way. Like, it does smell elevated. It's very just beautifully powdery while being extremely gourmand with just this like strawberry marshmallow. Next up is Yves Saint Laurent's Black Opium, and this is the Over Red. This is definitely a fragrance on the list that I think is a little bit darker, a little more edgy, and suitable for kind of nighttime events. I think that this is such an interesting take on the Black Opium DNA. I really didn't think that like a really deep cherry note would go well with that kind of like overwhelmingly bitter vanilla kind of smell, but it's done really, really well. I think the notes actually really complement each other. It almost kind of gives like a dark chocolate covered juicy black cherry, if you will. But as popular as Black Opium is, I feel like this isn't this kind of scent profile that I smell a ton these days, because although it's a cherry scent, it definitely doesn't smell like Tom Ford's Lost Cherry, and then it's also not too similar to the original Black Opium as well. And so I think it does have kind of like a unique quality that would make you like really stand out, and because it's kind of like darker, I think that it would really intrigue someone. It's very kind of sexy in that way. I don't generally like describing perfumes as sexy, but if I were, I feel like this one would kind of meet that descriptor. Next up is Dolce & Gabbana's Pour Femme, and this is actually a fragrance that I really want to start wearing more of because I really think it's a really good fragrance. I was about to declutter it in the past, but I actually held off on it because the dry down on this fragrance is really just so incredible. There's something about the way it dries down. This is another kind of strawberry marshmallow perfume, but in comparison to the Young Bougie Marshmallow, it's definitely less gourmand. It doesn't have the kind of milkshakey black tonic elements, but it's just so beautifully powdery, and when it dries down, there's something incredibly feminine and seductive. It leaves such a beautiful trail, and I really think that it would do you wonders on a first date. I feel like this would go so well with just kind of like a coquette, clean girl aesthetic. It's like the perfect perfume to complement that. And of course, I had to mention Dolce & Gabbana's The Only One Intense, one of my favorite fragrances ever. Oh my god, this perfume is entrancing. Like, it's so addictively sweet and rich and seductive, and I think it's good for all sorts of occasions. It projects and performs so well, but I never find this perfume to be heavy or overwhelming. It really just smells so good all the time. Like, I feel like you cannot go wrong with this fragrance. It is one of the most beautifully executed vanillas in my opinion. I love the way that it's able to blend this delicious, creamy, coconutty vanilla with these super crowd-pleasing white florals that give it such an expensive and perfumey touch. And lastly, we have Kilian's Love Don't Be Shy by Kilian. This fragrance has been popular for a while now, so I think it does come at the risk of being like a little bit basic. It's possible that your date will have smelled the DNA before because it's a really well-loved DNA that's been done countless times at this point. But I did want to mention it because I do smell this like a ton when I go out. Like, I feel like people around my college campus tend to wear this scent a lot, and every time I catch a whiff of it, I really do just think like, oh wow, like that actually smells really good. And it's very just beautifully feminine. As soon as I smell it, like I will know that it's Love Don't Be Shy, and my ear will kind of like perk up because like I recognize that scent, and it's very beautifully sweet in a flirty and playful yet sophisticated kind of way. This perfume has such a lovely orange blossom with a beautifully powdery marshmallow to give it a sweetness. It also has this just like very light and well done powdery rose that I think makes it feel put together and elegant at the same time. And so I would definitely recommend this for your first date because I feel like when the other person does smell it, it'll just really evoke like a certain kind of emotion and like perception of you. Like, I feel like they will immediately perceive you as being really clean and put together, if that makes sense. That's gonna be my list for the fragrances that I would recommend for a first date. I definitely think that these are all really unforgettable scents that will work so well. I definitely am not liable for any first dates gone wrong. And if any of your crushes abandon you because they hate the smell of any of these perfumes, do not look my way. But on that note, I feel like these are all so crowd pleasing that like if someone does like really despise the smell of these, I think they have horrible taste in perfume and you should probably find someone else regardless. That's gonna wrap up today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like this video for the algorithm, and as always, I hope you're doing well as summer's coming to a close, and I'll see you soon.